Hello, Smart Vortex. I don't really know what to talk about, so I'm just going to do one of my usual stream of consciousness, maybe do a bit of an update video as well. Hello, if you're new to this channel. It's philosophy, art, and politics sometimes as well on this channel. That's basically what I do here. So I did those a few videos recently. I've been experimenting with music videos. I was especially happy with the last one I did. It was quite, yeah, I just really got into the process of making that. I've just been finalised, hopefully anyway, editing the audiobook for Romance in the Comic Box, which should be available soon. Sorted that out, which is good. It's a weird time of year, obviously, because it's like Christmas. Christmas is always a strange time of year. I find I get more changeable this time of year, a little bit more turbulent mood-wise. I feel my emotions jump up and down a lot more, and that's been happening a bit today. I've taken my pill, but my mood keeps on shifting quite a lot, and yeah, that's not pleasant. I'm going to sleep soon anyway. I don't know. I feel like recently, I guess this is part of being an artist sometimes, or having that artistic creative imagination. Some part, I think, of any artist's being wants to fix the world, but you have to just reflect what's going on in the world. I think I'll talk about I'll talk about that. I'll talk about the relationship of politics and art, just from my own perspective and my own thoughts on that, I suppose. So I've always had a fraught relationship with the political. I have core human values, basically, is what I value. I think we have to treat everybody as we would like to be treated, which is a Christian morality, basically. But obviously, that comes with conditions. So, I don't know. Where am I going with this? I'm trying to, like, with the artwork I've been doing recently, which has a political aspect to it, I'm trying to reflect the mess we're in. Really, the mess we are in terms of politics and the world in general. And the world feels like a much more hostile place, a much more, for people who are poverty, or there's people striking a lot at the minute, which is good. I support the strikes, to be honest, but it's a struggle in the UK at the minute, certainly. Not to mention the wider world. The wider world has got much more profound problems. So, as an artist, how do we respond to that? Like, I did the anti-wall painting a fair while ago. The canvas is actually warped beyond repair now. It's like really badly damaged. I'll show it actually. It's very badly damaged. It's not that one. This is just a portrait I did of myself, but not that one. I'm gonna get this one. So this is damaged very badly, as you can see. It's warped. Probably savable, but I created this painting, what, 10 months ago now? It's a sad image, right? It's a sad reflection of the war, the situation as the Russian propaganda machine calls it. And now it's, yeah, I think it's fixable. I just need to take off the staples on the back and get it restretched. But obviously the actual original frame is terribly warped. And that's how the world feels in a lot of ways. Like, so art at this moment has a very important job, I think, which is truth. Reflect the truth of the moment we're in. How does that relate to politics? Now, we don't want art just to become propaganda, because if art just becomes propaganda, then I would say it probably, art has many functions, right? Art can be pure aesthetic beauty. It can be nature, representation of nature, person's image, anything really. I mean, even computers can generate it now, generate fairly convincing imagery, right? AI art and Midjourney and everything, which I've been experimenting with a little bit. I don't see the point of just completely rejecting it, and I want to be on the train as opposed to on them wherever, as opposed to off it in terms of art trends, just so I can get involved in them and figure out what am I going to do with this stuff, right? But when you're dealing with something that's quite very serious and actually involves real human lives, I mean, obviously, you could point to specific examples in art history where artists did really take a stand and just represent the raw truth of it. The most obvious example, of course, is the German Expressionists in early 20th century, who were extremely, well, the mixed response to the First World War in that example, but there's different expressions of how terrible that was. There was an interesting thing with German Expressionism actually before it got labelled as a degenerate art by the Nazis, was that it was it's like a spiritual art in a lot of respects. It was spiritual. It had a spiritual core to the artwork that was expressed. Now I think we're in terms of like where art is there now, where it's like the mass popular art, represented by NFTs, or it's more like a form of illustration in many respects. And there's nothing wrong with that. Illustration is art, obviously. Of course, illustration is a form of art. It's a form of representation. But art has a very important function, especially when times are as troubling as they are, because art becomes triply important when that is the case. One really interesting example I find with thinking about this is Ashil Gorky and his representation of his mother during the Armenian. Actually, he was reflecting on his experience after the Armenian genocide because he lost his mother. He was an immigrant in America, and I've actually seen his paintings in person. They're beautiful paintings. It's him and his mother. It's two paintings based on him and his mother. And that's what art has to do. I think art has to represent our human experience. If you're talking about something like painting, it will. And like, I'm not categorizing it into art has to be this, art has to be that. I've never been about that. I never will be about that. But I think, like in my own work personally, there's a return to representation, and a lot of the other stuff has been a mix of sort of like expressionism, Russian icons are coming in there, a bit of William Blake as well. So that's the sort of artists of the past that I'm referring to sort of try and figure out, like, the world is the raw materials for art, in a sense, right? So the raw materials of art is reality itself. politics is a part of reality. It's often a very, I mean, Ortega actually said something really interesting. So basically, politics is basically war, but more polite, or something like that. I might be paraphrasing, but I remember I heard that in an interview and I thought there's something in that, really. And it is. I mean, most of the time, war is the end. Is if everything else is broken down in terms of communication, war is often the end result of that process, right? Interestingly enough, of course, one of the worst human beings that ever lived was a failed artist, a certain Mr. Hitler. Um, but instead of, and he struggles, like, he released a book even called Mein Kampf about his struggle. And yeah, he had a struggle, like, he went through a difficult time, but he externalized all that hate and projected it onto Jews. Scapegoating. Now, I think if you are a true artist would overcome such difficulties, and everybody has their own prejudices or potential for prejudices, I should say. Commonly, if somebody really hates something, it means there's often something ill at ease in themselves. This is why I think the value of authenticity is so profound, because, say for example, like, I have my condition, I have my bipolar condition. It's a condition of mood disorder. It's been quite common amongst writers and artists and painters in general to have a condition of mood. So it's a fluctuation of mood, and yeah, I can get angry sometimes. My projected anger usually goes towards that which I see as other, I suppose, and especially because I'm in poverty quite a lot. That project anger is often aimed at the establishment, at money, at big money, and how money corrupts everything. But obviously, where this would become problematic, or where this does become problematic, is if, say, if I started personalizing that to a certain ethnic group or religious group or whatever, saying like, or I'm so poor because of it's a faux, and it's a very weak position intellectually, spiritually, and all the rest of it. Fundamentally, it's just a weak position to blame all your own failings, on some inside force or whatever, conspiratorial thinking. I mean, if you go back to not even that long ago, like, anti-Semitism is a problem in this world. It's a huge problem. If you just think Jews are one thing, then you're a fool. Obviously, Hitler was a fool. Like, he was just an idiot. He wasn't intellectually an idiot, but he was sociopathic, obviously, and just but all his hatred and all his, he was a user of people. Basically, he used people in a very nefarious way, obviously. Now, the way I try and deal with, I have anger issues, I have emotional outbursts, I have anger issues, which mostly come down to being disappointed at the human race, actually. I'm disappointed often that we can't do better, because I know we can. I know we can do better than what we're doing now. I don't think it's going to come from a leader or, I don't know, a party or anything like that. Where it comes from is, well, cooperation, understanding, of course, like, because we're all different in our own way. We're all messed up in our own individual way. Everybody is. I'm part of this group, The Tunnel, which I helped found 8 years ago now, along with a lot of other artists in London. And we're all struggling artists. We're all just trying to learn from each other, create with each other, create a platform for others. That's the whole idea of the tunnel. The whole reason we set it up was to be well, not like a political platform, but we responded to political events. When we do respond to political events, we respond with our artwork. We are the bastions of thought, trying to be reflective and thoughtful, and we fail. Not everyone. We don't always get everything right. We're individuals. We're individuals acting in a group, and individuals acting in a group can be intense debates. There can be disagreements, personal falling outs, but we're always united in a common cause, which is help each other get better, help inform each other, help each other to heal and get better. Like we all have our own issues. Like I'll speak for myself. Like I've obviously got my mental health condition with the bipolarity, manic depression, and also definitely have a little bit of a history of substance abuse. Like I admit to that. Like I've never denied any of that, and it's a coping mechanism, right? It's a coping mechanism. That is what substance abuse often is. Like I still smoke now, and I don't drink really anymore. Occasionally have a toke, but that's about it really. It's fairly standard, right? Anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this, but I don't know. There's probably some interesting little bits and bobs in there. I just thought I'd have a little reflection on art politics. So art has to be, I think, a representation in its highest ideal of just the raw truth, the raw expression of truth, and it takes a long time to get there. And like with that painting I did before, it's probably failed. It's not perfect. Just I'll show you again actually, since there are parts of this painting that I really like, but overall, I don't know, it's not perfect. And I wish I didn't have to paint it, actually. I wish I wasn't in a situation where I had to paint this painting, which, I'm going to have to try and save now. But here we are, right? Here we are. And Russia's a very, Russia in the East is a very personal thing for me because, let's put it there for now, because I taught in Russia. I was a teacher there for 2 years. I was invested in making children's, teenagers' lives better by a cultural exchange of English language, which is one of the most powerful forces in the human imagination. Right, writing is like writing. I had this thought today. Like basically, writing's like having. If you've got a pen and you've got a powerful pen, then you've got to respond. With that comes with great responsibility because words can be like dynamite. And I've played with this. I can be a bit of a provocateur at times with my writing, for sure. I flip between almost a sentimental tone in my writing to a revolutionary tone, to speak frankly. A tone of, and a satirist. I'm a bit of a satirist as well. I like satirizing popular culture and taking absurdism. I'm very much like a very influenced in my approach to politics by someone like Albert Camus, for example, in the sense that we do have to take a stand sometimes. There are concrete moments in time and history where we do have to take a solid stand and sort of that libertarian left sort of position, I suppose, as opposed to like someone like Sartre, for example, who was very much more of the orthodox left, and I never really found I got much from Sartre, just to be blunt and honest. I struggled with that. I read some of it when I was in university studying computer science and just reading philosophy as well. But from what I read of Camus, which is the myth of Sisyphus, and some of the Outsider, not really read much of the fiction actually, to be fair. But with Camus, I do like exploring his work and his approach. And I think I've actually got a book. I need to read it. Look about he's wrote a small little book on, I don't know, it's from the 60s probably, but on creativity, the nature of creativity. And there's a lot of artists writers have written about this. Like Oscar Wilde, I think, wrote um, obviously a lot about art and the importance of art. Oscar Wilde also wrote a lot about socialism as well. So my own politics are, um, I just define as broadly socialist. I think that in the ideal world we would have. This is difficult, isn't it? Trying to define my political beliefs. So I believe in obviously the freedom and rights of the individual. That's sacrament, and liberty, of course, as well. But along with that, I also do believe that that freedom comes about through cooperation, and that I dislike authoritarian leftists as much as I dislike authoritarian right. I just dislike authoritarian regimes in general, of course, because any person with any ability to see where authoritarianism leads, we've seen that was led in Russia, right? It leads to corruption, it leads to war ultimately. Because the problem with the things with authoritarian regimes, if you look at Orwell, 1984, that's the extreme example of obviously where that could lead, but it's just permanent war, total war. I mean, that's with the Nazis, they had the total war mindset of just, it reduces human beings to beasts. It turns human beings into inhuman. And as soon as you lose your humanity and are capable of atrocity, we are not, we cease to be human. Empathy is such an important part of being a human being that if that part of yourself gets cut off, you get desensitized. Or one recent example of this, which was good actually, was the All Quiet on the Western Front, which is very famous remake of the original film, which I've not seen actually. That had a powerful message because it shows where this authoritarian and also nationalist sentiments can lead. Nowhere good. Nowhere good. It just leads to mass slaughter and men dying for nothing. Millions died in the First World War. Millions in the Second World War. So art has to be the conduit of hope, maybe, I suppose, or something like that. And that's what I'm trying to do in my work. The Eternal Ship book I wrote recently is one of the subtexts in that is primarily about how art is the light of the world, and how there's a very dark also core of that book, but it's also about how darkness can be overcome by the light, which I think is art. Okay, that's my spiritual. I'm not religious, like in any conventional sense. Art is my religion, creation is my religion, and having a creative soul and a creative expression in that soul, right? Can anybody be an artist? Is another question as well, because obviously if you're going to have, I think if we had a more socialist system, it maybe that would be a case. Like people can express themselves more, and maybe, I don't know. I'm losing my train of thought now, so I'll leave it there anyway. But economics isn't my strong area. I'm not an economist. Like, I've read some Marx, I've read some Engels, I've read some Gramsci, I've read some. Gramsci's quite difficult. Gramsci's a great philosopher and cultural philosopher, but very difficult, very dense. And I've not read it for a long time. In terms of theory, I've been reading this book called The Burnout Theory recently, which is quite interesting, but I haven't really got far enough with it. I think it's very contemporary though, because I can't remember the philosopher's name as well. I'm a terrible human being. But yeah, it's pretty interesting so far. It's somewhat postmodern, but also taking in an analysis of, I don't know, like where we are at in terms of work too. Anyway, I've rambled for way too long now. I need to get to sleep too. But I hope there's something interesting in there for you to ponder or think about, or just to draw some conclusions from, or just riff on from your own ideas as well. Feel free to leave comments below. Yeah, I'll leave the video there. Basically, I'm still struggling to figure out all this complexity and trouble we're having at the minute. I'm trying to figure out like what is my relationship to politics as an artist as well. Yeah, because like I said, like I have convictions, I have principles, which, like I said, are mostly to do with being a human being and having empathy for other human beings and wanting to see us get out of this mess. So my basic thing is that if we want to get out of this mess, artists have to represent the truth of what's going on. And not in some propagandist sense. I mean, this painting I don't think is particularly propagandist. I specifically tried to make it represent the complexities of both sides, like Ukraine, the flag, solely holding out against an invading force. But look, there's grey figures in those windows. It says Niet. It's just written in Russian. It's the idea of the silent majority. The silent majority who don't want this to happen. And obviously the red. Self-explanatory. Anyway, I'll leave the video there. It's been quite long, and yeah, peace, and I hope wherever you are that you well. I'm gonna go to sleep now. I'm really knackered. Like and subscribe if you found anything of interest in this video. I guess I want to go to bed. I'm very tired.